Yo, what is going on, cringe boys? It is your boy StyleCaller 3000, and welcome to my boss ranking video for Arkham City. Now that I have finally completed both the DLC, Harley Quinn's Revenge, and the main story for Arkham City, I'm going to do the bosses. Just like in Arkham Asylum, I am going to be listing the pseudo-bosses, or also call them boss encounters. Pretty much not a full-on boss fight, but more of just like encountering them, still having a way on to take them down, whether it be whether it be just simple push of a button, just a way on taking them down to complete either a part of the main story or taking care of a side mission. And then after that, it will be the actual bosses. And there is a good little bit more, I think, or pretty much about the same as the last boss ranking video. But either way, I am looking forward to this, especially since there was a couple of placements that actually has a couple of the bosses tied because of them essentially being of the same mechanics, it's the same way on to take them down essentially. But we'll get into more in that whenever we get to that point. So without further ado, let's get on to the pseudo bosses. Alright, so the first pseudo boss that I'm going to be talking about is Victor Zsasz. This is one where you don't actually fight him. It's just more of a obstacle to get to him, push a button, and then you take him down. So within the game itself, you are going to answer the phones that is ringing at a phone booth nearby your location at the time it happens in the game. Then Victor will have another phone ringing for you to get to within a certain time limit, and then you have to track his signal that keeps bouncing around at certain pinpoints of the map. And then once you get the bar down below at the bottom of the screen, all the way to 100%, you'll find his location. Then whenever you get inside his hideout, that is when you're going to encounter the essentially just the obstacle of the room, just going through the room, make sure he doesn't spot you. Though I'm pretty sure there's not really much of a problem with Batman just like standing up and walking around and whatnot, but just crouch just to play it safe. I can't remember how I did it in my gameplay, since it's been a bit since I not only did it for the channel, but I also played it like just recently outside of the channel, so it's still been kind of a little bit with doing that. But either way, just make sure that you do not get his attention. Just keep going in the room, making sure that you do not get caught in the steaming water, because that's pretty much going to be an instant KO. And just make sure that you are going to be doing it, you're going to be getting to him within a good time, because he has two hostages. He'll just keep blabbering on, and he's like, and then a little bit later, he's actually going to try to give a call for Batman to answer. So I would assume that there is a certain amount of time where you have to get to him once he starts doing the call, and that there was no answer, because he'll be getting all antsy and just frustrated, impatient. So I would assume probably maybe a good couple minutes at best, until he'll probably just have the ideas like you know what, I'm gonna slay you, since he's not answering, just call it a day. But either way, once you get behind Zsasz, there is the glass wall or window or whatnot between him and you, and then you just press whatever the button the game tells you to, then bam, pretty much call it a day. That side mission is done. Just pretty much essentially easy peasy, especially whenever you know the layout of the room. Once you have played it a good quite a few times, it is not that hard to go through. The main difficult part about it is just making sure that you get to the other phone within good time, because it is important for you to have the glide upgrade, so that way you are able to get to that phone in a very good succession, without having to without having to like take so long for it, because you don't actually have the I think it's like glide upgrade, or at least a grapnel upgrade or something. But it's important to have those as maxed out as possible, so that you can be able to get through that side mission easy peasy. But other than that, not really much of difficulty. The room may be a little bit difficult, but I mean, it's not really as bad, especially whenever you go through it quite a few times. So, yeah. Anyway, let's get on to the next boss. Alright, the next pseudo boss, I'm going to say Poison Ivy. That's one that I wish it was an actual boss fight, because you don't actually fight Poison Ivy. I essentially just have it as like a reference. Well, I think of it as a reference to the Harley Quinn fight in Arkham Asylum, because you face off against Ivy's henchman that she puts into her hypnotic control, essentially, and she just uses some mechanic to deal damage to you, which it can also deal damage to the henchman that you're fighting against. And there are 3 phases, and by that, pretty much just like going through 3 floors of the building that you're in, and just got to make sure that you're going to be building up your account, your you're building up your combos, so that way you can be able to deal more of the heavier combo takedown damage, or whatever else combo moves you're going to be doing. And then just make sure that you're paying attention to Ivy's plants, and that isn't going to be blasting at you so you don't get hit, especially whenever you get into higher difficulties. However, it's not really too bad of a gap between like how difficult it is, because I remember I played it in hard mode before, and I think it wasn't really that bad with the amount of damage in hard mode compared to like how it was with the other modes. But either way, yeah, I just honestly wish that it was an actual boss fight, because if I remember correctly, in my Arkham Asylum boss ranking, I had Poison Ivy as my #1 favorite for the actual boss fight. So it kind of is a little bit disappointing onto like go from that to essentially like this, even though it's not that bad in Arkham City. I just honestly wish that there would be some mechanic into it where you actually will fight against Ivy. But either way, it's whatever. It is what it is. So now let's get on to the next one. Alright, the next pseudo boss I'm going to be talking about is Riddler. Just like in Arkham Asylum, you'll need to find trophies, scan the environment for the puzzles, break objects, and there is a new mechanic with this, is that you have to save hostages that Riddler has kidnapped, both officers and doctors/nurses from the church. There is going to be several areas for you to go to, where it is a obstacle room or puzzle room, whatever he calls it. Just certain rooms are for you to be able to go through using your gadgets and to be able to get to the hostage. And once you have saved, I think like 6 of them, and then you almost have all of the collectibles done. I think it's like maybe, I want to say you would at least like have a good few left to take care of, but it's still almost all of them that you would get done, and then you were able to get his location. Once you get to his hideout, it will just be just like if Victor Zsasz' hideout, it will essentially just be like an obstacle maze, except for this one is more like a mine cart area. The rest of the hostages will have explosive headsets on top of their heads, and they are forced to walk. Then there's going to be contraptions they have to hang on to, and it's forcing them to just keep moving. And you cannot stop them in any way whatsoever. Otherwise, boom. Now, once you were able to go through the maze and the mine area, whatnot, within a good time, and of course, making sure you're keeping yourself a good distance in between the hostage in front of you and behind you, And then once you get underneath where Riddler is at on top of you, he'll be like on some wooden platform with some steps. The game will show a button for you to press, and then it'll get to a cutscene for you to just drag him down away from the controls. And then you'll be able to save the hostages and be done with that side mission. It could be a very extensive one. Heck, Riddler's side mission in all the Arkham games are pretty extensive, but once you know on where like either all of them or almost all the collectibles are at, and you know what to do, then it probably should not take you long. Especially whenever like even if you have to find the data handlers. Like, if you know the game well enough where you don't need to encounter much of them, then it should probably be no issue for you whatsoever. But it is a good idea to get to those handlers so that way you have all those symbols shown up on the map as a reference for you to use as a pinpoint to get to the location of where they're at. Some of them can be a little tricky depending on which one you're going to be getting to. And of course, it is going to be important to be able to get as much as possible. So that way, that is going to be more points for you to be able to get more upgraded levels available to use those upgraded points for any of any of Batman's gadgets or anything with combat skills or like increasing his health or his body armor, something like that. But either way, Riddler, just another extensive grinding that essentially is worth it, but it could definitely be annoying. But at least it's at least has a couple different mechanics added into it compared to Arkham Asylum, so it makes it a little better, but it still can be a long run, especially if you are not really fresh in your mind or like you don't really know exactly what you're going to be doing. But either way, we got one more pseudo boss to talk about. Let's get to it. Alright, the last pseudo boss, I really wish this was an actual boss fight, but it's going to be Deadshot. The reason I say that I wish it was an actual boss because it had the potential to actually be a boss fight, but it's more of a boss encounter to me nonetheless. You just go to 3 different areas where there are three political victims of where he pews. You scan the area on where the shot had ended up, and then you trace it to where it had began. And whenever you get to Deadshot's location on where he was at during the time of the pewing, you find potential clues on where he could potentially be at, where would his base be, or where would he be holding up at in Arkham City. Then once you find it, you find a schedule that he follows, and he has certain times for certain people, and then one of them coming up is Jack Ryder. You have to get to him in time to save him, and then once a Deadshot misses because you save Ryder, then you get to the area that Deadshot is at, and it is a one-hit boss. If his laser gets to you and he sees you, bam, you are done, and you do that all over again. I do like that it has that mechanic into it. It's not a multiple hit. It is a one hit. You got to be very careful. You have to hide behind certain hiding spots to be able to get closer to him. And then once you get to the opening that is in front of the platform right underneath him, or at least that he's standing on, and then you get to the grate, and then the game just shows a button for you to press, and then you do a great takedown. The only reason, and well, one of the reasons I say that I wish that this was an actual boss fight is because I wish that it had more than one phase. I wish that there was more times where you did that, maybe a second or third time, and you have to like use different vents or different grates on to be able to take him down. And you just had to be careful to actually not get hit. But either way, it's still an interesting and tense fight nonetheless. I'm still essentially going to call it a fight because it kind of is, even though in the boss ranking sense, it's a more of an encounter as opposed to like an actual boss fight. But either way, I digress. And then I think that's pretty much it for that. So let's get on to the bosses. So for last place, this is going to be the worst boss fight, and that is going to be Mad Hatter. I'm essentially going to be counting him as a boss fight, like actual boss fight, instead of a boss encounter or a pseudo boss, because you actually do damage to him like multiple times. Um, you get to the location where you would think that the cure for Batman is at because of the Titan formula within his blood, because it was infecting Joker's blood, so therefore Joker's blood was in Batman, so therefore Batman had Titan in him. But it actually was a some kind of knockout drug or something that Mad Hatter made, like it was all an illusion essentially. Um, and and Hatter was trying to take control of Batman. And within the illusion state that he was in, you face off against him. You face off against the henchmen that also wore masks that got them under control by the Hatter. And whenever he pops up, you have to hit him. Otherwise, you are going to be slipping further and further and further down to his control until you are fully his to manipulate. There's a good few times that you do that, and you have to make sure to be aware of the henchmen that is around you, especially since more and more of them will appear the more you take down. It's like the concept of the Hydra. The more heads that you take down, more will sprout out. So it's pretty much the same concept. It's not that bad, but there were others that best it, so I have it as the last one. All right, so for my number 9 placement, I'm going to do the Harley's reprogrammed Mechanical Guardians, because they are tough to go through, harder than regular henchmen, though not as hard compared to other bosses, but it does take a bit on to be able to take them down. I think it might take one or two of the heavy combo attack, though I can't remember off the top of my head, but I want to say that it takes a good amount of work on to be able to take them down, especially with the one time that you face off against a group of them. And quite a few of them will pop up, and you have to just like be careful on to not get hit, because I believe with those there's actually no counter indicator, so you have to pay close attention to your surroundings. It's not too bad. It can be a little difficult. You just got to make sure you're paying attention to your surrounding and just making sure that you are at high enough combo streak so that you can be able to do one of your heavy combo attacks, especially the one of the combat takedown. That one, which of course, that's the one I always love to do whenever it comes to face off against multiple enemies. Besides the background stun thing. But yeah, not really much to talk about on those. It's just tougher henchmen to face against. It's just mechanized and just a little bit more to do with them. But other than that, let's get on to the next one. All right, so for number 8, this is going to be one of those placements that actually has a tie to it, and that's going to be Mr. Hammer and Mr. Sickle. I have both of them in the same placement because they are just of the same fight. They are not big baddies like Joker, Penguin, and others, but they are still tough to face against. They are glorified bosses, and they can actually deal damage to the henchmen that is around them if those regular guys are not going to be careful. Because not only they can be able to, because not only those two can be able to deal damage to you, but they can also deal damage to the henchmen that is around them. I would have placed Mr. Hammer above Mr. Sickle because of him also being featured in the fight with the fake Joker, the Titan Thug, and the regular henchman. But because of Mr. Hammer still being of the same mechanic in that fight, like with the earlier fight on the first time you get into the steel mill, I'm not really going to be placing him above Mr. Sickle, based on multiple appearances. I'm just ranking them based. Oh, we're crying out loud. Here we go. I'm going to rank them based solely on the gameplay mechanics. So, yeah, just deal a whole bunch of damage to them. Just strike them like for crap ton of times, and then as long as you're able to stun them, then you can be able to do a good bit more before they get back into being normal and being able to build up an attack to strike you. Just make sure you are building up your combos and that you are aware on if somebody is going to be hitting you, no matter if it's the muscle boy or it's going to be the regular guys. But either way, not really too bad, but can be a little tricky if you're not going to be paying attention to like your surroundings and not paying attention to what button you're going to be pushing, because you don't want to be button mashing so much where you're going to be accidentally pressing the wrong key and whatnot. So yeah, let's move on to the next one then, to number 7. All right, so the number 7 boss, I'm going to say the Titan Henchman. Yeah. I have the Titan Henchman above Hammer and Sickle because of the sheer fact that a lot of the mechanics with the Titan Henchman is the same in Arkham City as what it is in Arkham Asylum. Once you do enough damage to them, you can get on top of them, ride them, and you can actually use a couple of different attacks. Now, it's not going to be just the Titan Henchman just like flailing their arms around and striking down any of the regular henchmen that is in their way, whether to like be stunning them or like actually knocking them out. But you also have an option to do a Titan Charge, and you could do a Titan Shockwave, slam pound on the ground. And you do that a couple of times until you get the Titan Henchman fully down. I'm not having it so high in the list because of multiple henchmen and having the Titan formula, because it's just essentially of the same fight. I do find them a bit better than the ones in Arkham Asylum because of them actually having attacks and you can be able to use it whenever you're on top of them and just like controlling them. But either way, there's not that much differences between the ones in that game compared to the first game. Yeah, like, even though it is not too bad of a challenge, I think they're a little bit better than the Abrobovich brothers. I think that's the last name is pronounced, or something like that, because of the amount of baddies that is, like the regular baddies that is around that you can be able to deal damage to whenever you are controlling the Titan Thug. So, not too hard. Not essentially not too easy. It's kind of like a middle ground, but nothing of really like horrible. So there's that. So on to number 6. All right, the number 6 fight. We are getting into the middle grounds now. This one is also tied, and that is Two-Face and Harley. I have both of them in the same placement because whenever you face against them, it is essentially the same. It isn't the same thing. Now, there is a couple different times where you encounter them. For Two-Face, it is going to be at the courthouse where he kidnaps Catwoman. But you don't actually like face off against him like in an actual fight. It's more of just him using his gun to pew pew you as you take down his henchmen. And then it cuts to cutscene where then he gets tied up at his feet and then just hanging above that container of acid or whatever is in that thing. And then the next time you encounter him is whenever you are Catwoman, with her little side story thing at the very end of the main story. And whenever you go to the museum, you see not only Harvey, with a rocket launcher, essentially, but he also has henchmen. and you can just face off against them and take them down one at a time, and then you can get to Two-Face. However, after you take down a certain amount of health, more henchmen will show up. So I find it just a little easier to just get to Harvey whenever you can, so that you can just deal enough damage to them. But I do recognize the amount of the regular baddies that is around, so I would encourage just taking down a couple of them first, so that way there's not anybody close by that will be able to deal damage to you as you face off against Harvey to deal damage and to take it down his health down a few notches. And to just do that a couple more times until you take Harvey down. Now, with Harley Quinn, this one is specifically going to be about the fight in the DLC. Now, I do know that there is a encounter with her in the beginning whenever you go to the church for the first time, but it's just dodging her kick, or not dodging, countering her kick, and just throwing her to the door, but she does get back up. So, however, the actual fight is in the DLC itself whenever you play as Robin. And it's pretty much the same as with the Two-Face fight in the museum. She has a rocket launcher, if I remember correctly. You face off against her minions, and then it just make sure you do a good time on with getting to her, deal enough strikes to her to temporarily get her down on the ground and take off a bit of her health, and it's a rinse and repeat. And if I remember correctly, though I don't know if this actually happened in my gameplay, but there should be more henchmen coming out whenever you take out a certain amount before dealing damage to her. But either way, the mechanics of the fight is of the same, so one is not going to be over the other. They are going to be in the same placement. So that's pretty much it on with that. Let's move on to the next ranking. All right, number 5. We are getting into the last of the mid ones before we get into the good ones. This one is going to be the fight with the fake Joker, the Titan Henchman, regular thugs, and Mr. Hammer. Quite a bit of bad guys to face against, so especially since there are different mechanics on for each of them, essentially. Nothing really too strenuous, nothing too crazy. Like one or two of them has a couple different stuff that you have to do. Excuse me. But it does help with having the Titan Henchman there, so that way you can be able to deal damage to any of the thugs there, whether it would be dealing damage to Mr. Hammer, the regular bad guys, or the fake Joker. It definitely can be difficult, especially whenever you are surrounded and you're being attacked by multiple people at once. Just as long as you know what button to press, as long as you get your timing right, it shouldn't really be too bad, especially since the regular henchman can be taken down pretty easily a good amount of times. Joker would probably be a little bit more annoying to deal with because of the fact that there is like some certain attacks that he'll just like dodge out of the way compared to the others that will just essentially take it. But I mean, like, it's not one of the best. It's essentially mid to me. I would have put it a little lower, but honestly, I think with the sheer scale of that whole fight, I think it is a little better than some of the others. So I have that in the middle ground, essentially. Not too easy, not too hard, just a good solid middle, in my opinion. So now we're going to get on to the good ones, on to the top 4. Alright, so the number 4 boss, it's also a combo. This one is Grundy, Solomon Grundy, and Penguin. Cobblepot. Cobblepot is nothing really too bad. He's kind of easy. There's a couple times where you encounter him. However, the first time, like in the very beginning, whenever you are Bruce Wayne, you don't have to fight against him. Just face off his bad guys and then face off his minions, and then you can just go up the obstacle instead of just punching him. But whenever he comes up, it's a little bit more difficult, but nothing too bad. Now, Grundy's fight, it is a multi-phaser, and I do love this fight. Because it's nothing really of too tedious. However, the way on to get his health down, and then you can be able to attack him. It's a little repetitive. I will say that it is a little repetitive. To use the explosive gel to blow up those whatever those things are that opens up, and you have to use the gel on them to explode them before they close. Otherwise, it ain't gonna work. But it does have 3 phases, and then after you defeat Solomon Grundy in the last phase, then you face up against Penguin. He's not gonna have Mr. Freeze's gun because you have the remote hacker to be able to disable it. Thanks to the data chip from Mr. Freeze's suit that you put into the hacker, so that way Freeze's gun won't have to be just hitting you all the time. But instead, Penguin has a rocket launcher of his own, and so pretty much all you gotta do is just run around him, just get close enough, and it'll have the mechanic of pretty much a penguin being like, "Oh, blast it! I gotta put more ammo in this thing. Hold on!" And then you're close enough to where you can just like hit him multiple times, then you could just knock him out, and then in the cutscene he just gets put into one of those cases, and I think it's funny. But it's nothing too horrible. It is a good boss fight to me. I mean, it does have some repetitiveness to it on throughout, especially whenever you get into Grundy's section. But either way, it does have a couple of new elements into it with each phase that you do. So I do appreciate that it's not like the same thing all the way through, because it has a couple new elements into it that gets featured in it with each phase. So yeah, it's a pretty good one. On to number 3. Okay, third place. The third best boss fight to me is Ra's al Ghul. I was stuck between Ra's al Ghul and Clayface. I have Ra's in third because there is just nothing of too many different stuff for you to do, but there is a good amount. It's just pretty much you take down the sand clones that comes up whenever you're in the illusionary desert area, and whenever he gets into his big sand statue thing, and all the swords come out, you have to dodge them, and then the kunai is like not the kunai, the throwing stars is thrown at you. Just gotta dodge them away, and just like do the whole side jumping thing. And you just throw a batter. No, not throw batarangs. You use the remote electrical charge, the REC. You just do a quick press of that, and just make sure that it goes to the opening to be able to deal damage to Ra's. And of course, there's a couple times whenever he jumps out of the sand to hit you as much as you can with his katana, and you have to like keep countering it. It essentially is just 2 times on going through that, though I think the first time you don't deal with the throwing stars. Whenever you get into the giant sand phase thing, I think it's just only on the second time that you do that. But either way, it can be a challenging fight, especially with the first bit. In the second phase, whenever he brings out more sand clones for you to face against, and there's just like so many, you have to press the Y button so many times to be able to like knock them all away. Otherwise, you are gonna get sliced and diced by their katanas. But it is a pretty good one. There is some similarities with Clayface and Ra's al Ghul, but nothing to where that it is like saying that I would put them in the same placement. So, Ra's al Ghul, it can be an intimidating villain. I'll say that for certain. But as far as the gameplay and the fight is concerned, it can be a bit challenging, but nothing too bad. Especially whenever you get your timings right, you just know what you're doing, you recognize the pattern. Um, the only thing that would really be the challenging part, I would say, is just making sure that your electric charge blast is going to be actually getting through the opening, and not hitting one of the sand clones that like would be surrounding him. Just make sure you get the timing right to have the electrical charge at Raish, and make sure not to get hit by any of the throwing stars and katanas. That's just like a lot of things happening to you at once. So yeah, let's move on to number two, the second to best boss fight. Okay, the second best boss fight in Arkham City would be Clayface. So with Clayface, there is some similarities on with Ra's al Ghul's fight. Um, like there, let's see here. So like with using the remote electrical charge on Ra's al Ghul, you use the freeze grenade on Clayface. You just have to dodge his stretched out attacks, and you just have to keep spamming the quick key to be able to throw out the freeze grenade at him. And whenever he gets into the giant ball form, make sure that he is going to be ramming into explosives to take down a bit of his health. And it is a multi-phaser as well, so I do like that. Whenever you get back to the Lazarus Pit, the last phase that you face off against Clayface, Clayface. That's when you're gonna be facing off against a lot of ads. Pretty much a lot of the a lot of his minions essentially. Just like clay minions. That you just have to like take down with the sword well, I guess I would really could call it a katana. I think it's pretty much a sword. I don't know. Just to take it down with the sword as much as you can while you're doing the freeze blast at Clayface. Whenever he pops up, he's gonna like do like a shoot off clay breath attack kind of thing at you. So you just gotta dodge that, and of course you have to make sure you're not get hit by those irregular minions, because they will grow in the numbers. They can be annoying. And that's like the annoying part on with the fight, or at least like I should say challenging, is because there's so many of them popping up, and you just have to be careful to not get hit. Otherwise, you're just gonna be like blocked or they're gonna be interrupted of attacking so many times, and your health will be going down quite a bit if you're gonna get hit multiple times from every single one of them. Or at least if you're going to get hit multiple times because there's so many of them crowding you. But other than that, if you just like take him down as much as you can and make sure that you have a pretty good amount of space to be able to use the freeze blast grenades at Clayface in that last phase, then you should have no problem with it. Yeah, it's even though it is the last boss fight of the game, it's not the best. There is just one that outdoes it to me. And I'm pretty sure that those of you who know the game, or at least see my gameplay, you'll know which one I'm going to be talking about. So I'm getting excited for this. So let's move on to number one. All right, the best boss fight in Arkham City to me is Mr. Freeze. Oh man, I always have a blast with going up against him. Oh my gosh. Like, yes, it is a challenging boss. It can be insane, especially since I had recently played Arkham City in hard mode. Oh man, that was so difficult. The reason it's difficult is because whichever way that you do damage to him, whether it's using something of the environment, excuse me, or you use one of your gadgets, or you sneak up on him or whatnot, he will adapt to it. He is going to adapt to that strategy, and you gotta do something else. Oh man, like you gotta be creative. You have got to be creative. You got to come up with different ways to deal damage to this guy. Otherwise, you will just not have a good time. Um, I know some people would prefer to do just the regular button mashing, stun him, doing as much as you can on with the tedious of it, as opposed to like coming up with like a whole bunch of different ways on to take him down. But I enjoy this fight so much because you can use the grates, you can sneak up on him, you can be able to use the what is it, the line launcher. You can be able to disable his gun, and as he gets distracted by it, you can be able to just deal damage to him. It is great. It is fantastic. And whenever you play the game on harder difficulty, you will have to have another way to be able to take him down. Like for instance, the rails. The side rail thing, whenever you like crouch on top of it and you do a glide attack on him, whenever he freezes one of them, it would be a good idea to get onto the other one, so that way you can be able to do that attack again, as opposed to just like a one-shot kind of thing, because once you get done with like all of the different ways to take him down, there's really not going to be anything else. He will adapt to practically of everything. The whole room is going to be frozen over. So doing a move or two multiple times is going to be the best bet, because otherwise you're not going to have any other way to face against him. And I love the challenge of it. I do. I think it is the best challenge in Arkham City. Granted, some of the time it can get a little annoying, especially since you can't use the detective vision. But that does up the challenge difficulty. You can't use the detective vision for so long, otherwise he is going to disable it, and you can't be able to use it again. He does have those flying orbs that can be able to detect your heat signature whenever he can't trace your footsteps. And those orbs will just crash into wherever you're at, and he is going to get to you. He will track you down, whether it's by footsteps or those orbs giving away your location. He will constantly follow you. It is great. Oh my gosh, it is fantastic. So yeah, I think it is a very great boss fight. It is the best. It's one of the best to me. The Clayface fight can be exciting, but man, I just smile so much whenever I play against a Victor Freeze. It is definitely my favorite with Arkham City. So with that out of the way, I appreciate you guys watching this video. This is my opinion based for the pseudo bosses and the actual bosses. Soon I will be getting into the first episode of playing Batman Arkham Origins, and that one is going to be on the Xbox 360. So I'm going to take a little bit of time with getting that prepped up, just making sure that all is going to be good to go, and then we'll go from there. I will get that out as soon as possible. I meant to do this ranking video a little while ago, but I just got busy, and I just kind of kept forgetting because brain farts and whatnot, especially with having long days. But yeah, I'm just glad I'm getting this out. I am excited for getting into Arkham Origins because I think it's a good one. It's not the best, but it is a good one to me. So stay tuned up for that, and I shall see y'all in the next one. Star Color out, right to the stars.